AITA? I refused to babysit my aunt's kids. Then my family became toxic, which led to an awkward relationship. Hi everyone, I'm Claire, and I'm 19. For the past couple of years, I've been helping my Aunt Julia with babysitting her two kids, Luke 6 years old and Mia 4 years old. At first, it was something I enjoyed, spending time with my younger cousins and helping my family. But things escalated to a point where I couldn't take it anymore. And now I feel like the bad guy for standing my ground. Let me take you back to the beginning. Julia is my mom's younger sister. She's 38, a single mom, and she works full-time. Growing up, we were pretty close. I've always looked up to her because of how much she's been able to juggle as a single parent. So when she first asked me to babysit, I said yes without hesitation. It was just small stuff, watching the kids for an hour or two while she ran errands or went to an appointment. At the time, I was still in high school, and it didn't feel like a big deal. I genuinely love spending time with Luke and Mia. Luke was this curious, high-energy kid who asked a million questions about everything, and Mia, being younger, was quieter but full of giggles and sweetness. They were adorable, and I didn't mind the occasional babysitting because I felt like I was helping out someone I cared about. But then the occasional became the norm. Julia's requests became more frequent, first every couple of weeks, then every weekend. It wasn't long before it stopped feeling like a favor and started feeling like an obligation. She'd drop hints about needing help, and if I hesitated or said I had plans, she'd make comments like, "Must be nice to have all that free time," or, "I guess I'll just have to cancel my plans again." I didn't want to let her down, and I definitely didn't want to let the kids down, so I kept saying yes. By the time I was 17, I was babysitting entire Saturdays and sometimes even full weekends. Julia would drop the kids off at my house with a bag of clothes and snacks, give me a vague idea of when she'd be back, and then disappear. I didn't hear from her until she came to pick them up hours later. And here's the kicker. She never offered to pay me. She'd say things like, "You're such a natural with kids," or, "This is great experience for your future." At first, I didn't think much of it, but as time went on, it started to feel like I was being taken advantage of. Things got worse when I started college. I was juggling classes, assignments, and trying to make new friends. But Julia didn't seem to care about any of that. She'd call or text, asking me to babysit, and if I said no, she'd guilt trip me. She'd say things like, "You're the only one I trust with them," or, "I don't have anyone else to turn to." It got to a point where I stopped making plans on weekends because I knew she'd find a way to rope me into babysitting. One time during finals week, she asked me to babysit on a Friday night. I told her I had a big exam on Monday and needed the weekend to study, but she wouldn't let it go. She said, "Oh, it's just one night, Claire. You can study tomorrow." I caved because I felt bad, but the kids didn't leave until midnight, and I was too exhausted to focus the next day. I ended up doing poorly on that exam, and all Julia said was, "Well, at least the kids had fun with you." The breaking point came last weekend. Julia asked me to babysit on Saturday, promising it would only be for a few hours. I didn't have anything big planned, so I agreed. She dropped the kids off at 8 a.m., but by noon there was no sign of her. I texted her, and she replied, "Running late, but I'll be there soon." Soon turned into hours. By the time she came to pick them up, it was 8 p.m. I'd spent 12 hours with the kids and I was completely drained. But what really shocked me was what Julia said as she was leaving. She casually mentioned that I should start paying her for the opportunity to babysit. At first, I thought she was joking, but she wasn't. She said that I was gaining valuable childcare experience and that most people would pay for that kind of training. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I told her I'd been babysitting for free for 2 years and that it was unfair to even suggest something like that. She got defensive and said I was being ungrateful and didn't understand how hard it was for her to find help. That was the last straw. I told her I wasn't going to babysit anymore. Julia didn't take it well. She accused me of abandoning the family and being selfish. I thought my parents would back me up, but they didn't. My mom said, "Family comes first," and that I should keep helping Julia because she's struggling. Now the whole family seems to think I've changed and that I only care about myself. It didn't stop there. A few days later, Julia showed up at my house with cookies, acting all sweet. She said she wanted to apologize and claimed she didn't mean to ask for money, just that she wanted me to understand the value of what I was doing. Then she offered to limit babysitting to twice a week, like that was some kind of compromise. I was about to say no when Luke, her 6-year-old, said, "Mom told us you don't like us anymore because you're lazy." My heart broke. He's just a kid, and he didn't understand what was happening, but it was clear Julia had been bad-mouthing me to him and Mia. When I confronted her, she tried to laugh it off, saying, "Oh, you know how kids are." But I wasn't buying it. That was it for me. I told her I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore, and I didn't appreciate her throwing me under the bus to her kids. She left in a huff, and not long after, my mom came storming in, furious that I'd upset Julia. She said I should have just let it go for the sake of keeping the peace. Then Julia took it to the family group chat. She posted vague messages about selfish family members, and even claimed I'd been charging her to babysit, which is a total lie. I defended myself, but it caused a huge divide in the family. Some relatives took my side, saying I was right to set boundaries, while others thought I was being dramatic. I eventually left the group chat after saying my piece. A few days later, Julia's husband called me. He apologized and admitted that their finances were a mess and that Julia had been taking extra shifts to make ends meet. But instead of prioritizing essentials, she was spending money on unnecessary things. While I felt bad for their struggles, it didn't excuse how she treated me. I still love my cousins, but I've learned that I need to set boundaries, even if it upsets people. It's been hard, but I know now that my time and energy are just as important as anyone else's. So, AITA for refusing to babysit anymore? YouTube audience, let's see what some of the Reddit commenters have to say. Here's the first one. "You are not the A, Claire. You need to prioritize yourself. Babysitting your cousin started as a favor, but your aunt completely took advantage of your kindness. The fact that she tried to guilt trip you and even manipulate her kids into thinking you don't like them is appalling. You're in college now, juggling responsibilities and trying to build your own life. Your time and boundaries deserve respect. Family or not, no one has the right to treat you like free childcare. It's not selfish to say no, it's self-care. You've gone above and beyond for years, and it's time for your aunt to find a proper solution for childcare. Stand firm. You're doing the right thing." The next commenter said this, "You are 100% right to stop babysitting." Your Aunt Julia crossed so many lines here. It's one thing to ask for occasional help, but dropping off the kids without notice, not paying you, and then trying to guilt you into thinking you're selfish is beyond unfair. To top it off, using Luke to manipulate you, that's incredibly low. You've been more than generous with your time and energy. It's okay to love your cousins, but still need to set boundaries with their mom. Julia needs to take responsibility for her own kids. You're not their parent, and it's not your job to sacrifice your education or mental health. Stay strong. You're absolutely justified in stepping away from this toxic situation, not the A all the way. The next commenter thinks differently about this situation. Family should come first. I get that you're frustrated, Claire, but I think you're being a bit too harsh on your aunt. She might not have gone about things the right way, but if she's struggling, isn't it worth helping her out a little longer? Family's important, and it sounds like Luke and Mia really look up to you. Instead of cutting ties completely, maybe you could work out a compromise, like setting limits on how often you babysit or asking for fair compensation. It's clear your aunt needs support, and stepping up for your family now could strengthen your bond in the long run. Life is about finding balance, and maybe this is a chance to work things out together. That concludes the advice from the audience. Here's my takeaway. Claire, it's clear you care deeply about your cousins, Luke and Mia, and value your relationship with your family, but it's equally important to prioritize your own life and boundaries. A fair compromise could be offering to babysit for your Aunt Julia occasionally, but on your terms. This means setting clear boundaries, like only babysitting once a month or for specific hours that don't interfere with your studies, work, or social life. You should also have an honest conversation with your aunt about compensation and mutual respect. While family is important, it doesn't mean you have to sacrifice your personal goals or happiness. Let her know that while you love Luke and Mia, you need her to respect your time and commitments moving forward. This means, OP, you are not the AITA, but your Aunt Julia gets the boot. Right, Kitty? Let me know what you think about this and put it in the comments. Make sure to watch the next unbelievable real-life story